everyone, and welcome to the February 28th, 2022 Southampton Village Planning Board work session. I don't think we have to motion to open this, correct? Okay. So I want to propose a change in our agenda because I want to move under subdivision item number 1 up to the very first thing, because Mr. Blinkoff has another meeting very shortly after this, and we want to get him on his way so that he can make that meeting. Any objections to that?
No objections.
No? Okay.
I'm just gonna put myself on mute and stop my video.
Okay. Okay, so this is the matter of 550 and 554 Hill Street LP, which is a subdivision that's before us and is going to require considerable discussion. Kathy's team has done a review of the application, and it's being shown to be incomplete at this point. So we wanted to, I'd like to, at the next meeting, propose to adjourn this matter until the April meeting and open it up for discussion to the rest of the board. And if Jeff has anything he wants to add, that's fine.
Jeff, you're muted. Oh,
Sure. No, I'm sorry. I don't have much to add. I had the chance to review the thorough report, which indicates, as the chairman just mentioned, that the application is incomplete. And before there could be substantive discussion, it would seem to make sense to have the applicant submit the information that's requested by Ms. Eisman and also through Ms. Sklar's review, because I think that'll help the board to go through the whole application as a whole. You'll notice in the response submitted that there would be information from council regarding languages to the easements and the driveways, and that's certainly something that we would address as the board moves forward and prepare appropriate language, because as the board moves forward, if the application is being considered to go forward, there would need to be something, I would suggest, that makes that a permanent, controllable, maintainable arrangement with respect to the driveways that can be binding on everybody that follows. The final thing I just mentioned is it's my understanding that Ms. Eisman did let the applicant's attorney know of the issues before the board tonight, and that this would probably be the thought of the board to adjourn, and that they would not object to that and would consent to that, because I think that they realize they need to submit the information. And I see Ms. Eisman's nodding her head up.
Yeah.
So, and that's all I had to offer, Chairman. Thank
you. Does the rest of the board have any questions regarding this at this point? It's just incomplete now, so it gives us more time to get up to speed.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, in terms of reading the comments, which I did before, just to take a look at what was said, I initially raised the concern that I thought the village code indicated that really flag lots should be maintained as flag lots, up to 3 of them, and that you could have a driveway up to like 500 feet, and that that really, in terms of the planning, it should be in the direction of maintaining what is a traditional driveway arrangement. But I understand that I'm coming in late to this, so that was, the zoning board had passed that. But I was just wondering, in terms of the suggestions on, if the applicant was rejected by the zoning board on having a circular driveway that could go from Hill Street to Captain's Neck, and if they're choosing a shared driveway, then shouldn't there be some trees planted or something to prevent them from using the other driveway, so that they have to have one or the other? In other words, you need to go with the shared driveway and then file it with the clerk so that it's officially traveling with the property. So that was my only reaction to that. Should there be some additional planting required, or, show us how that other entry point is no longer going to exist if that's what they want to do.
you. And just to go ahead, Ms. Eisman.
Are you talking, so, so you would, you're suggesting that the landscaping prevent use of the, what is the driveway for lots 1 and 2 to get to lot 3?
Right.
Okay, okay.
Well, because if the, well, yeah, I mean, my reading of the code was that, you know, a traditional driveway arrangement, you know, we shouldn't necessarily be opting for, you know, an additional shared driveways in terms of adding new driveways, you know, when one existed, but if they're going in that direction, should they cut off the other entryway? Because otherwise you could drive all the way around, and they asked for that initially in front of the ZBA, but that was turned down.
So Kathy, I think that Willow is asking something different, but I'm,
Okay.
Or, you know, they're not showing us the configuration for the final lot. So are you still going to be able to drive in through Hill Street to access lot 3 in addition to a shared driveway from Captain's Neck? Are you able to do either or is this just choosing a shared driveway, writing an easement, filing it with the clerk, so that anyone who sells the property in the future has to maintain, clear of refuse, et cetera, a shared driveway now going to Captain's Neck? Is that the idea? I just didn't, you know, because we're not seeing the lot configuration, and there's a road that goes in there from Hill Street and has 3 flag lots at the moment. Is that being changed, or can you now use both? That's what I, you know.
So, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong. I think one of the comments was that it would be good to have show the future lot layouts, or was that not something that was requested? It's something the planning board could ask for, not necessarily a requirement of a final subdivision, but Sarah.
I will look, I think we asked for, we may have asked for that. I'll take a look quickly.
Yeah, because that would actually show, you know, not necessarily exactly where things would be laid out, but definitely where the driveways would be proposed. And that's important in this case because they are doing a full landscape plan. That was something that was required by sketch plan. So it would be good to know where are those driveways going to go. And that might answer the question. But as far as restricting that, you know, do they put, you know, say that they should not have access to lot 3 from that, the shared driveway from lots 1 and 2. I mean, you know, there might be a reason to do that for emergency services as an emergency, but I don't know of another reason why you would restrict it. I guess I don't really understand the concern. Is that would go fallow, or the driveway from Captain's Neck would be an eyesore or something that is not being used, or?
No, I guess I was just reading the ZBA minutes, like the history of it, and the applicant initially said, we'd like to go from Hill Street through Captain's Neck. And then the ZBA said no, and then they said, okay, we'll just do the shared driveway and preclude that. But now you have a driveway that just stops at before getting to lot 3, which was pointed out in the report today. So what's to prevent future people who buy that lot from saying, forget about that, we're going through Hill Street? So as the planning board, I think we, you know, have to decide, you know, and not leave it up to future property owners that they're just going to abandon that driveway, use the other driveway. Like, if we're doing the planning, we should figure out what the plan is.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what, you know, that's why I think showing the lot layout, showing, you know, the wording that's intended before final approval, you know, what are we approving is just what I would like to understand.
Okay. Okay.
And the engineering report does call out the need for the depiction, this paragraph 4, for providing and depicting the full length of the driveway. So the engineers pulled that out as something to follow up on as well.
Yeah, and I guess the concern is if you want to use that as a circular driveway, then anyone, wanting to go to the beach from Hill Street could like circle through there. That seems like a, potential, like, I just think, shouldn't houses have one driveway, sort of one access point, because it just, you don't want traffic going through a residential neighborhood. I guess that was the other thing.
I'm sure the residents of those properties wouldn't want it either in the future, right? They won't want people cutting through. Okay, I understand the comment, so that we'll make note of that definitely for when we get the revised plans. It does show that the full length of the property has that as part of the driveway easement. So, maybe that shouldn't go the full property. Maybe it should cut off before it gets to lot 3.
Oh, the new driveway, if it's a shared driveway, would have to get to the lot 3. If it's in fact a shared driveway, right? It has to
Oh, no,
provide access to the.
I don't think the intent is for it to get to lot 3 as a driveway. The driveway for lot 3.
Entrance.
Yeah, it has its own entrance from Captain's Neck. I'll share my
Oh,
screen.
I thought it was because I thought we were being asked to approve a shared driveway for both lots.
Is it shared between 1 and 2?
Between 1 and 2, but 3 has its own access. That's part of the.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the easement across lot 1 to get to lot 2, and that is intended to be where the shared driveway would be from Hill Street to get to lot 2. But I see how it goes all the way down to lot 3. But that driveway is actually going to be, to get to lot 3 is going to be across the easement on Captain's Neck Lane. I don't know, does that help?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that, are they proposing like planting trees so that's no longer an access point, or is it gonna, because initially there was not a plan to write a legal easement that you file with the clerk, so that for future property owners, they have to choose that method of entering the property. So I just think as a matter of policy there, you should have to choose, your one access point to your property. That was my only. Thinking about it. Because that was my reading of the village code, as it says, choose a traditional lot entrance, which is each person has a home, has, one driveway, or if you have a shared driveway, that's how you get to your property. But I think, showing us what the intention is by, what's going to happen with the old driveway and what the intention is and how to lay it out, where the shared driveway from Captain's Neck is going to terminate, so that, is it going to reach where the property it's supposed to reach, not stop at the property line? How is that going to go?
Wouldn't we need a site? Wouldn't we need a site plan for lot 2 to sort of determine that ahead of time? A pretty detailed site plan where what is the access to that property for the eventual home there?
You certainly can ask for that.
Because I think, to Willa's point, we would need to know where they're going to turn off to the right-hand side to access lot 2. They might have to go all the way to the end, or it might get. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense to make that request, and also to have the applicant follow up on what the engineers were asking for, is to show the exact location of the drives, so that you know what they're looking to do.
Mhm.
Okay. Are you satisfied, Willa?
Yeah, that sounds fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's just a matter of having the information, because we're being asked to approve a new shared driveway, you know, where, how is it going to be shared? Where is it going to terminate? What are the
Yeah.
legal, you know, what are we going to see in terms of a filed easement? So you know that in the future, that's going to continue to be the use of the shared driveway and abandoning the other driveway, like making a choice, because that's what the zoning board of appeals said, you know, we want you to make a choice for which entryway you're using, which I think is just a policy. It should, you know, it should be, you know, one lot, one driveway, or if it's a shared driveway, the shared driveway.
Mhm.
Agreed.
Very good. Right.
Lots to
So-
unpack this one.
So, so with the applicant's council had consented to adjourn this until the April meeting, the work session being March 28th as well. So if you all could vote on that, then it can come off the agenda for next week. And so people don't have to come to the meeting.
So then
to
is
discuss it.
so then is there a motion to do that in a second?
Okay, wait a second. I'm a little confused. Okay, yes. So,
So- I guess my question is the chairman then going to make a motion to adjourn this to the next formal meeting of the board in April with the work session in March on the consent of the applicant's counsel, as Ms. Eisman reported, for the purposes of obtaining the additional information?
yes,
And is
So-
there a,
Yes, I'll second.
thanks.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just so that the record is clear, because we're all by, so Ms. Bernstein,
Aye.
Ms. Claire,
Aye.
Ms. Cowell,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Aye.
thank you.
Great.
And with that, if I could ask if I could be excused with my apologies for interjecting.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
You
You
too.
too.
You too.
Two.
Excuse me, Chair, I just wanted to know, do I keep Sarah in or do I put Sarah? What
Um,
would you like me to do with Sarah?
Sarah doesn't need to be on right now
Okay, so move her into the other
with
column.
the audience. Yeah.
Okay, I will
Hi,
do that.
Sarah.
Okay, so why don't we just resume with our regular agenda? Is Alice back? Alice is back, okay. So going back to extension requests, number 1 Fernandez and 41 Barnard Street LLC. This is a request for an extension to September. The applicant has had to start some process with surveying over again. So if the rest of the board, does the rest of the board have any questions, first of all? And if they do, let's get them answered. If they don't, I'm inclined to grant a vote at this public meeting to extend this application.
I'll make a move to extend the application to
So I
September.
think we'll vote on that on Monday at the public
Oh.
meeting.
Okay. I could tell by the look on your face. Okay. Yeah, well, that's right. That's what my notes say. We're gonna vote on it at the public meeting.
Yeah, but if there's anything that the board wants to discuss about it, it is, we've granted quite a few extensions here. The last one was for a year, but the applicant has had a lot of COVID-related hardships, and now they have had to start their survey work over again. So that is the cause for their delay. So if the board is inclined, we can vote on granting that extension on Monday.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have to vote on that. We're just gonna do it on Monday.
Okay.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the public hearing for 99 Sanford Street, scheduling the public hearing for 99 Sanford Place for April 4th. We'll do that on Monday as well. As far-
Go ahead, Alice.
Yeah, so on that one, I think they had a problem with posting and noticing again, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just
Okay.
wanted-
So that just will stay on the agenda. I don't think anything even has to be done on Monday, just that the public hearing will be held on April 4th. You know, assuming they get the notices out and it's posted.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Thank you. So we're up to subdivisions. Number 1 is Town of Southampton, 51 Pond Lane. The applicant requests adjournment to April work session.
That's a site plan?
Site plan, sorry.
And our, Kathy?
It says
what did-
subdivision on my agenda.
yeah,
I'm
it says
sorry about it.
subdivision, and they moved the subdivision item up to public hearing and they
Okay.
left the heading, unfortunately. So,
Yep.
yeah, but it is a site plan and they're requesting adjournment. They said for 2 months in the email. So they're looking, I think they mean the work session in April, at the end of April. Because they
Okay.
said 2 months in the email that Jackie sent.
Okay, because they're going to be going back to the zoning board and applying to the ARB in the interim, so they need a little time to do that.
Right.
That's right. They're pending
Okay,
the-
so we
Is
can,
this some-
go ahead.
I was just gonna ask if this is something we can vote on tonight.
Yes, the adjournment request we can vote on tonight.
Okay. Does the rest of the board have any questions or concerns about granting this?
No.
No.
No,
Okay, so I'd like to move that we tonight grant the request for adjournment to the April work session. Can I have a second, please?
I'll
Second.
second.
Great. And do we need a roll call, Antoinette, or this?
I'm happy to do that. I also just was pausing because I couldn't hear who the second was. I think I heard Jane and Lisa at the same time. So which one did you?
I think it was Jane,
Okay.
Okay.
and so the vote is to adjourn to the April work session.
Okay. Okay. And Chair, how do you vote on that?
Aye.
Miss Claire, how do you vote?
Aye.
Miss Cowell
Aye.
and Miss Bernstein.
hi.
Okay, number 3, Elegant Affairs, 230 Elm Street.
I think we have to go to number 2, 71 Hill.
Yep, we do. I guess I'll go off tonight. Sorry about that. 71 Hill Street LLC. Let me just read my notes. Okay. There's really no action to take on this tonight at this point because Kathy and her team are still working on the Part 2 EAF. And
Wait, Tony, that'll come after. I'm sorry to interrupt, but so next week, the board would vote to assume lead agency status under SECRA.
are we going to be ready by next week?
No, just to be the lead agency. You just say, okay, we sent out the letters of coordination to all the other agencies and we got some comments back, but we also got, nobody objected to the planning board taking the lead on. So you're just saying, okay, we're going to be we're going to be the board that is adopting a secret determination in this. And then after that, so at the next meeting, assuming the applicant is able to get back to the board with, you know, the answers to the questions that we asked in the report. There were several items from agencies and also a couple comments from our environmental scientists here to address those. So we have a complete record for SECRA. Then we would do the Part 2 in the next month and then talk about that at the work session at the end of March to consider possibly a determination the first the meeting in April.
In April, okay.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Tony.
No, I'm glad you did. And so really nothing to do tonight.
not tonight, just be ready on Monday. There will be, an action on Monday to assume lead agency status. And then, there is another report that went out to the applicant that was site plan comments. And I know they're actively working on, updating their plans to address comments. So, they may have some input at the meeting on Monday.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. All right, now we can move to number 3, Elegant Affairs, 230 Elm Street. We're still going through site plan review, and Kathy, do you want to just tell the rest of the board what's going on? It seems like we're not going to be ready for next week to schedule anything, so.
Yeah, so we prepared a report that I circulated just this afternoon because we got a plan from the architect that it does show the area to the north of the building as being blacktop, but it doesn't appear to be the same dimensions or size that's shown on the survey that was done by the applicant's surveyor. And also the area to the west of the building shown as a brick walkway on the survey is shown as a patio. That also, the configuration and size looks different. So there are a few discrepancies we feel between the survey and the proposed plan. Also, they're proposing to move the handicap ramp, which is a little different than repairing it. So they are moving it and changing the configuration. So they do have to provide a little more detail to make sure that it actually conforms with ADA standards for slope and the size of platforms and so forth. So we don't have those details. And then the last thing is that on the survey that was submitted is that there's proposed drainage, and there's no details about what proposed drainage. And if they're intending on doing that, that's something that we would need to review. Drainage calculations, the size of the pools and so forth to make sure that they, that it makes sense. So, I don't know if it's.
Are you saying that they want to bring drainage into this application?
That was the part that was confusing. It was shown on the survey as being proposed drainage, and it's something that wasn't introduced anywhere else in the application so far. So
okay.
So really, if that is being proposed, they really need to update their application materials to say this is what we're doing.
Okay.
So just made things a little more unclear.
Oh, I guess, yeah, I have a question as to, so where was the ramp, if there was a ramp before, and why is it being moved to the side? And if that requires a different, platform there or asphalt or whatever it is, if it expands, what is a pre-existing non-conforming use, then that is something that the board should be concerned about, because my understanding of, pre-existing non-conforming uses is that if they're allowed to continue in terms of whatever it says in the certificate of occupancy, that's one thing, but they can't do any site plan modifications that would enlarge that use at all. So, courts have said that if you put an awning up in front of a building, that is a significant change because people can gather under that awning. So, I think that we have to look at not only in terms of there's no, what's reflected in the survey has to be what is there. That's important, but also there can't be any modifications unless they received, separate approval for that, because you can't expand what is a non-conforming use to make it a bigger non-conforming impact in a, what is otherwise a residential neighborhood. So, I hear what is being said about the ramp, but, why is it being moved? And does that require additional changes? Is that why they're asking for more expansion of blacktop or whatever? And then why couldn't it be in the front of the building? So, those are the questions that come up for me. If That's what we're talking about. Like any change could be considered an expansion of the use in this residential neighborhood. And that is something that my understanding is that is under the jurisdiction of this board. So we have to have an accurate reflection of what's there, but also the choice of putting the ramp wherever they are choosing to put the ramp. It has to be legal, ADA accessible, but also not intended to make outdoor use unless they were to get, you know, different approvals for that.
How could the ramp be considered expanding outdoor use?
I don't
Well,
think
only
that,
yeah, I don't know, only if you are you know, if people are going out that way to, you know, hang out and have a cigarette on the side, you know, like, or have a drink or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but whatever is there, it shouldn't be expanded to outdoor use unless that's separately, you know, there's a variance approved for that, I
Okay,
think. Yeah.
So we definitely will be evaluating, you know, the ramp for, you know, conformance with ADA, and we will look at it from the potential of, does that change things from a use perspective? I will share my screen just to show, this is what we're talking about. This is the ramp, the landing that they're proposing. It comes up over and then enters here. And this is what exists now. So it's just changing, you know, which door it goes into. I don't, you know, it actually will expand into this area, into an area of this blacktop. I don't see how that would need additional, you know, blacktop space, but we can, you know, we can, you know, have the applicant present their case when we get to that point. But at this point, just as far as, you know, making sure that it is ADA compliant is the important, you know, that's an important feature too, you know, that we want to evaluate. And this is where I was talking about this area that they're talking about proposed leaching pools. So this is here and here. So. So that's just something that, you know, is a change from last month.
I think one of my concerns is that there's a considerable amount of public interest in this application, and how do we make it clear to the public that we're probably not going to be ready next week or the week after for them to have anything to comment on yet? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have 50 people in the audience next week just because there's some sort of a misunderstanding.
well, I think, you know, I think the public has been following this matter closely, and they're probably either watching tonight or they'll watch this meeting later. So I think, you know, what you've said is sufficient, and, you know, it's good to be clear that until the application is complete and we feel that the file is complete and consistent, we're not going to be scheduling the public hearing. It certainly sounds like the board is inclined to schedule a public hearing in this matter. But until we're certain what we're looking at and what the board is reviewing, it doesn't make sense to schedule that public hearing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm inclined to schedule a public hearing to discuss access ramps when that day comes. So I just wanted to get that out there. Anybody else have any input?
Yeah, I don't think I got to where is the ramp now? Is there a ramp now
Oh,
that exists? Is there any ADA ramp there?
so this is a survey of existing conditions where this is where it has a ramp now.
Okay. Okay, and then it's being moved, or it's just being,
It's being shifted. It looks like it's being shifted slightly to the north, and then it will enter here.
okay,
So they're going to close off a door, it looks.
But this will no longer be a handicap accessible door over here,
Okay,
right? So
right.
they're cutting it off here. So. And they may be able to provide an explanation of why they want to do that. It might just be I mean, really, they're providing an entrance into the great room rather than into a service area is really what it is. So if you're coming by wheelchair, you don't have to go through the service area. You can come in through the great room where the main activities are.
Jane, Lisa, any?
No, it would be interesting to hear the comments on how they propose it.
Okay. All right, great. So we'll wait.
Alice, did you vote to adjourn this at this point, or it's up to you? But
No, I mean, I think it'll probably be on at the next meeting, right? In case the applicant submits something. We could vote to adjourn it. It's really up to the chair. I did have one question for you, Kathy. I'm not sure, and we can discuss this later also, but isn't it a requirement that accessibility be through a main entrance and not through a service area? Thought I've seen some lawsuits about that.
I think the best, you're supposed to make the best effort to make it through the main entrance. Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be making an improvement here.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that was sort of what I was wondering, why it's not in the front of the building. So you don't have to go through the asphalt, to what's become a controversial area because people are afraid it's going to be used as an outdoor patio deck or whatever else. We've had all these iterations of it. So, and in terms of providing access, should it be right in the front of the building? So you pull up and if you need to use that entrance, you don't have to traverse any blacktop or, that's my question, I guess. If it's being moved in the first place, should it be moved to the front of the building where, you could easily enter in a main way, the way everyone else enters the building? It seems to require this side entry area.
I
And
think
if
because of the
being-
slope,
Yeah.
because of the slope, in order to make the slope ADA compliant, because as it is now, those are very steep stairs going up. So I have a feeling that may not even be possible to do the front of the building.
It would be possible with a lot of switchbacking.
Yeah,
it would-
yeah, switchbacking, and maybe you wouldn't have so much sidewalk anymore.
Right. But I mean, that's a good point, Willa. Like, somebody in a wheelchair has got to kind of go down the side of the building that could have traffic and, only God knows what's going on just to get in, just to get to the back, to get in onto the ramp.
Yeah, it's just that the most plans you look at with ramps, it's, you enter at the same point that people who don't have a disability enter. So if they're changing it, why isn't it being done that way? But, also just the asphalt that they show has to reflect what's there. And that's, also the bottom line is I don't think they can, in the site plan, expand anything. They're kind of stuck with the building the way it is and internal renovations because of the legal situation of this pre-existing non-conforming use that they're seeking to continue also a non-conforming use. So, but then you're kind of stuck with the footprint of the building. So I think that's what, as a planning board, we have to just be concerned about enforcement of that aspect of things in looking at the site plan. So to kind of say it's only about the ramp, I don't know if it's the site plan and whether it's going to expand the use in a neighborhood where it relies on this pre-existing conditions, which is a legal situation, but you can't make it more impactful. So I think, I just think in looking at it, we have to evaluate that. and, you know, I guess if they provide more information, we can better evaluate that. But if it's, you know, if the asphalt is expanded as shown, then that has to be fixed.
Agreed.
I think it would be a good idea to postpone this, because even if we get something, we're not going to have time to look at it. So it just seems silly to keep it on the agenda.
Okay. Do we want to, why don't we just vote on it tonight then too? Can we do that, Alice, or?
Yeah, do you want to adjourn it to the next work session?
Yes.
What do you think about that, Kathy?
Yeah, that'll give them some time to get us some revised plans and for us to review them as well.
Do you, I mean, is it, should we consider 2 months, or is that a burden on the applicant?
I don't think that's fair to the applicant. If the applicant can, you know, get their information submitted, then we should review
Well,
it.
they haven't seemed capable of doing that thus far. That's why I was just wondering if 2 months might get us somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I think we should, you know, go for 1 month now.
Okay, sounds good. So I'd like to move that we adjourn Elegant Affairs 30 Elm Street to our, I don't have the date in front of me, April.
It's the April 4th meeting, but it is the March 28th work session.
Okay, March 28th work session. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Claire, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Cowell, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Bernstein, how do you vote?
Aye.
Great. Okay, moving on to 69 Jobs Lane LLC. Can we let Roy in for this? Or do we want to discuss it a little first?
Maybe Kathy could give a quick rundown of what the application is first.
Okay.
Excuse me,
I'm
Kathy.
sure Roy could probably do a better job than me.
Okay.
But in a nutshell, there's a proposal, it's a site plan application, and it's for the existing toy store. The front facade needs to be changed because of some damage, and as part of that, the door needs to be replaced, and the door has to be an outward swinging door because of fire code, and because there's a step there that just makes it very difficult for people to get in. Anybody with a stroller, very hard to get in, definitely not able to get in with a wheelchair. So although this is not going to be strictly ADA compliant as far as the, this design, this will make it much easier for wheelchairs to get in and for people with strollers to get in and out. So the idea is to get rid of the step and to have a sloped area of brick that extends out into the sidewalk. And our comments were related to the engineering, at making sure that the slope was as gentle as possible. And we got input from Gary Gillespie as well, the superintendent of the Public Works, and same thing. He agreed that as long as that it's not a tripping hazard. So
Gary's concerned about the sides, actually, not the front of the slope, but the sides becoming a tripping hazard.
as well. Yeah. So it's both ways. Yeah. So and Sean Leonard could go into a little more detail on that. He's here too. So so I think if we could let them in to talk, that would be great.
I can go ahead and do that. And this would be for Sarah as well, right, Kathy?
Sarah doesn't need to. She's there just to listen for now. Yeah.
Okay, I'm putting in Sean and I'm putting in Roy. Okay.
Start my video.
I need to start my video, but I don't see a start video thing. There we go. Okay.
There you
There he
are.
is.
Am I pointing the right way?
Yes.
Or
Yeah,
am I better this way?
Oh, that works too.
Is that okay?
Works.
That's great.
Okay, cool. Kathy, good job. If I could just add a little sort of kind of background to what Kathy explained about why I'm here and what's happening. We've been in that building since 2012. And I moved to purchase it middle of last year. The whole time we were there, the front of the building has been problematic because there's leaks in the front of windows, which every time it rained or there was a storm, water would come in. We'd have to put buckets in. If we forgot to put a bucket in, the stuff in the window would get damaged. And of course, the wood had begun to rot because it was always getting wet. And we had a problem with the door, which it was instead of being a single door, it was a double door that opened inward. And, you know, the double door being what it is, one side would be fastened to the top. And so most people would come and stand on the step in front of the store and open the one side of the door and be able to get in. But anybody who had a stroller, we had to unlatch the other side of the double door. And then when they would put their stroller up on the step, there wasn't enough room. And then they had to kind of reach in and push the door in front of them. And anybody in a stroller, and certainly anybody in a wheelchair, made it very, very difficult to get into the store. So when I went to move the building, I got a hold of architect Sean Leonard and said, you know, we need to fix this. We need to stop these leaks. The glass is single pane. It's very reflective. The door is terrible. And he basically said, well, if you're going to do this, you got to just do the whole thing. And we'll get a door that opens outward. And we will replace the glass with modern glass. It's not reflective and it's double pane, and we'll get rid of the leak and we'll improve the front of the building. So we went before the ARB to present them with the plan, basically to rebuild the front of the store exactly as it looked before, except with a new door that met fire code instead of being in violation of fire code, and that would open out. And then because it was opening out, Sean and I discussed whether or not we should leave the step there or would it be better to have a ramp. And we just thought it would be better to have a ramp so then a wheelchair or a stroller could get in more easily than again having the step there. So Architecture Review Board approved the plan totally. I can't remember the exact date, but it was sometime in the spring of last year. Of course, being a toy store, we then had the summer, which we didn't want to do anything for. Winter came, we presented the plans for the ramp. Department of Public Works Supervisor Gillespie indicated that the slope of the ramp was going to go into village property. So we needed to get an easement from the Board of Trustees to do that. Being a trustee, I recused myself from that vote, but the board voted to approve that easement to allow us to extend into the village right of way to make a ramp that would have a gentle enough slope to have people to go in. Now, we already have an ADA compliant entrance in the rear of the building. So this is not necessarily ADA compliant. In fact, it would be impossible to make an ADA compliant entrance in the front. There's not enough room. The ramp would have to extend onto the village sidewalk, but it will be an area where a person in a wheelchair or a person in a stroller could get in. Now because of my experience, having been on the planning board for many years, I believe we were making a repair. We were rebuilding the front of the store exactly that it had been before, with the exception of the door, and we were repairing areas that were in need of repair. So I was not trying to avoid coming before the planning board. I certainly went before every other authority or permitting authority that was required to go through. We started the work, and the building inspector came after we had started the work and expressed that we needed to go before the planning board. I said, but we're making it a repair. he checked out what we were doing, said, yes, indeed, you are. But he requested that we come before the planning board to get the proper approvals. So we buttoned up the building, we stopped work, we put plywood on the windows, we didn't do any more work. And here we are before you to get the approval to, as I said, replace the front of the building in kind with what was before, replace a non-conforming door that was in violation of fire laws with one that does comply, and make the front entrance more accessible. That's what I'm here for.
So if I may also interject, the other part of this has to do with the brick and Gary Gillespie's comment about making sure that it is subtle as possible. When I first worked the design out, I took the pitch from the door all the way out to the cement, and then I made the same pitch go to the left and to the right so that it was all equal pitches going around so that it'd all be gentle. In seeing the comment from the engineers saying, we flare it out all the way to the outside corners? Absolutely, we can do that. The reason why I didn't, like I said, was I was trying to keep them all equal, but we can equally still flare this all the way to the either corner of the building so that it's as gentle as possible from the left to the right. It doesn't change its approach, but at least as you're walking down the sidewalk, it'll be a little more of a subtle slope there and not as noticeable. Very much like some of the other stores along Job's Lane, they have a similar type of a buildup on the brick going to their front entrances.
What is the rise in how, like, the distance that you would be making that up?
So the total rise is 6.5 inches, and we have 6 feet to play with. So we're a little under the, yes.
Okay.
And we can make the side slopes even less if we go all the way out to the corners of the building.
That's why I was asking you, out to the corners.
Oh, so that actually, that slope would be even less. That would be more like almost like a half an inch per foot.
Oh, okay. It's hardly noticeable
Exactly.
when you're walking. Okay.
The brick extends from the front of the building, what, Sean, maybe 18 inches? And then we have cement, then the cement sidewalk. So in order to actually get on the brick, you'd have to be walking quite close to the building. But by going out to the full width of the brick, again, we can make the slope as gentle as possible.
Right. And we'll be replacing everything with the same brick that's there and matching that right into the building. So there's no change in material going from the concrete sidewalk to the brick. Once you're from the brick, you're going to go right to the door of the store, all on the brick. Underneath that, we'll make sure that is also a very stable base. There was a comment that was made to make sure we don't have any settlement or anything like that goes on over time, as you sometimes see with brick. But we'll make sure the base below that is a solid base that the brick is placed on, so that we don't have those issues.
Will this work have any impact on the street trees?
No, the street trees are actually on the other side of the concrete walkway.
Okay.
And I guess the gentleness of the slope has to do with the ease of getting up the ramp, or has to do with the visual of when you walk down the sidewalk? What was the concern on the slope to begin with?
Well, for starters, we were trying to make it as gentle as possible, just for the fact the ease of getting into the building, and that's on the straightaway approach. Now, if we also, I think the comment is if we can make it gentle to the left and to the right, then I think visually also you'll have less of an impact. So it will not even be noticeable that it actually slopes.
Well, and also to minimize any possibility of anybody tripping on the slope.
Okay.
Is there any kind of delineation on the slope itself that shows a person quickly that there's a change in elevation?
There be not much of a change. There's no more than a change of elevation there than there is anywhere else on Job's Lane with the brick. The brick isn't completely flat all the way down Job's Lane.
So can you put do you have a drawing handy that you can?
I'll share my screen, and if it's not the right one, then
There you go. So the
Yeah,
only
there you go.
difference here is in my drawing, if you see the slope on to the left and to the right of the door, we're going to stretch out even further to the outside corners of the pilasters of the building.
So Lisa, we're just talking about the area below the threshold of the front door. It's
Correct.
it's a minimal rise. Okay, thanks, Kathy.
I think there was another drawing that was submitted that had more notes on it about the other changes to the front of the building that was submitted. That would be the plan to use for the site plan for the decision. Am I right? I believe there was another one.
Yep.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? No. So
Sounds like the right thing is being done.
yeah, and this is so minor. I don't think we need to have a public hearing on this. It's I can't imagine anyone. I don't think that we're being imprudent in any way. I would just like to, like, if Kathy could have the paperwork ready for Monday, I'd love to just get this off of our calendar and put it up for vote, as long as the rest of the board agrees.
Yes,
Yes.
sounds
Okay.
good.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I have no objection to that from a planning standpoint.
do we have to vote on that, or is it?
Well, if you could just authorize Kathy to proceed, that we will not be scheduling a, and I think that's what we would need to do today.
Okay.
Kathy, is that too
One
much
second.
pressure on you and your team to have that ready for Monday, or?
Not at all. No, we could
Okay.
get that ready. You know, Sean will need to update the plans to show the change in the grade that is different than what was on the plans that were submitted. But if those are submitted to, you could send them directly to me and to the village, then we'll have them for the file. You know, I can, you know, prepare a decision.
Kathy,
Great.
I'll have those to you tomorrow.
Okay, sounds great.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so that's the last item on our agenda. I'm not prepared.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I don't know if, right now, because I appreciate everybody seeing this as a beneficial change, and I'm just wondering if there's any way that the board could grant a conditional approval pending the final vote, so that we can get the freaking door back in the front of the building so people can actually walk in the store.
I don't have any objection to that. What about the rest of the board members?
Absolutely no objections.
Fine with me.
Alex, is that okay?
Yeah, no
This is
objection.
this is a work session, so
Mm.
I don't think the board, unfortunately, I don't think the board can take that action tonight.
So it waits until Monday.
Yes.
But I would order the brick.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Thank you.
And the glass.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next thing is minute approvals, and I would like to just push minute approvals off until next week, if everybody's okay with that.
No
Fine with
objection.
Okay. So there's something that came up earlier today, and Alex wanted to discuss with us the possibility of changing the date of our work sessions so that there's a little more time in between work sessions and public meetings. So the proposal on the table is that we have our public meetings the first Monday of every month, and our work sessions the third Monday of every month, so that everything is spaced out every 2 weeks. And I just wanted to get the feeling from the rest of the board how they feel about that. It makes really good sense as far as flow of information and giving Kathy and team time to work on things in between.
The other
It gives
thing I'll
us
add
time
is-
to look at what has come about, which very often we're scrambling. I know today I was in at the very last minute, grabbing whatever documents I could. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
As the board knows, the ARB also meets on the second and fourth Mondays, and so the last Monday is often the fourth Monday, like in February and March. So this would avoid the nights where the ARB meetings conflict with this meeting.
And so is this, I just need, do we vote on this, or is it something we're considering? And
I think it's just something we're considering at this point. I don't think the
Okay.
board to vote on it as an action of the board. I think it's more of an administrative matter.
okay, all right. And
And I would add that, we have 5 o'clock for our work sessions and 5:30 for our public meetings, which ends up causing some confusion.
Yep.
And the reason we have our work session at 5 was to make sure there was enough time between this meeting and the ARBs if they did coincide. So I would suggest that we also pick a time that is the same for both.
I like
I
that idea.
That's an improvement.
Okay, good.
it is 5:30 the time that we would all prefer.
It's better than 5.
Yes.
Me too. Okay, great. And then Alex mentioned to me that we're gonna start getting quite a few applications for changes to retail space in the village that wasn't historically part of our purview. And the way we're kind of set up right now to do business, these stores, we're not going to be able to give approvals fast enough for these stores to get their work done in time to open up for the season. So we were talking about a way to maybe do a combination public hearing work session for the next few months or forever if needed. And I just wanted to put that out there and have some discussion with the board if they had any input on that.
Do you really want my views?
No.
I think it's nuts.
Yes, of course we do.
I think, I mean, if I get out of Tallahassee where I'm stuck, and I'm sorry to be so late, we have 2 ill grandchildren, and we've escaped from CPAC in Orlando by a few hours. Having the board do anything just to revise, where counters and stuff is inside these stores is, as Alice has read how the village board seems to read, I guess, the wording in the code. There are some, I have been advised informally, there are some trustees that think that that's nuts. It was done in order to deal with one specific area where the village trustees wanted to get their you-know-what out of the hot seat, and they wanted us to be in charge of all sorts of stuff. And if that sweeps everything into us to where they move counters, or guys are coming on short notice and, coming out in May to get ready for June, I think Alice's brilliant observation is if they're going to read the code that way, the village is in trouble, and we're doing something that probably, it hasn't been done for 40 years. And if we're starting right now, it's a whole new line of work. I would object to the village trustees, and I will go to the next trustees meeting if I'm in the village in 10 days. And after talking to the mayor and the trustees severally before the meeting, to say, make a ruling that this interpretation that you just gave for other purposes can somehow be reversed or adjusted, because I think it's not sensible. these stores, a lot of stores open on short notice. They come in the spring, whether it's April, May, or June. It's let's just say it's mostly May, where they're suddenly deciding this is what we're doing, is where we're hanging the dresses or putting the stuff in. And we want to, if we've got to approve where all the counters are and all this internal stuff, which is what is the reading that's been done, I don't think this is appropriate or good work for us. It's going to drive Alex is going to go crazy just reading the stuff that comes in. I mean, he's going to have to double his salary just to read the junk coming in for all these stores. So I do think we should object as a body, and I hope our chairman will join me. I'm happy to be the spokesman, but that is, after 40 years of not bothering to do it, I don't think it's the right thing. So I think we should object. And if we got to work morning, noon, and night to deal with each of these things coming up on short notice, will be far worse than the ARB is when people come up with signs at the last minute. I mean, this type of thing has happened before, but it drives them nuts at the ARB just on signage. So that's my speech.
Well, Alan, you can go to that meeting because I think it's still Zoom, whether you're in town or not.
Okay, I will do it. Last time I went on Zoom and the mayor left and went to his office and sort of half listened, and the other people were all tuned out worrying about something else. So I've been on Zoom before. I'm ineffective even in person, but on Zoom, I'm much worse.
But can someone give a little background on why this is being moved to our jurisdiction? Because I don't.
If this is of the record, I will tell you what I'm told by a number of people, and I'm not going to name them.
I can do it.
Move to our jurisdiction to deal with 230 Elm Street. So we do it, not the village trustees.
Well, so what happened, Willa, is the law has not actually changed. The law has been the same, and a strict reading of the code as it stands right now says that for any non-residential property, if a building permit is required, then site plan review is required. So a strict reading of that provision says that if a commercial site needs a building permit, whether it's, for Stevenson's toy store that is replacing its front door, or any other interior change right now, site plan review is required. If there's a code amendment, then, that would be different, but there hasn't been a code amendment. The code has not changed. The interpretation of that law has changed.
Okay, and the rebuttal to that by lawyers for the last 40 years is it's absolutely true when you change your front door or access or anything on the external or where it is, but when it comes to dealing with the permit, including the building site and where the counters are and where the racks are and whether it's for ladies' garments or men's garments, whatever you're doing, that is not the approval of the site. The site includes the external and its location and everything it has to do with the neighbors and historic and all those other, but not where the internal guts of the store are located. That reading of the code, which Alice just gave you exactly, did not include doing the internal stuff. And by interpretation, the current Board of Trustees said that they wanted it to, and so they've stuck it with us. In particular, it's to deal with the application at 230 Elm Street.
Well, it's the building inspector's determination, and this board obtains its jurisdiction from the building inspector. So that's where we are right now. We are reviewing them. So I do think it might be prudent for the board to consider changing the way the meetings are organized so that we, such as tonight, or we can take action and vote on these applications that are currently before us, whether you object or not, frankly.
Right, and we're hoping this will help expedite applications like the one that we heard tonight and some other ones that I can tell you that are in the works where people are planning to drop off applications where it's strictly internal. And they're hoping that we can, one, avoid scheduling a public hearing because we don't feel that that's necessary, and to not have to wait, this several weeks for them to get a decision when they're trying to get their building permit to open in time. So we're hoping that'll help allow those applications to flow through this board a little smoother.
Yeah, I think we need an interim plan until Alan and I get our discussion in with the trustees. We have to have some sort of an interim plan.
So if the board is in agreement, I would suggest that, perhaps Alex take this to the administration so that we can change the way the meetings are noticed going forward. So we have combination work session and public meetings.
And what we'll do is I'll have that schedule written up for the first and third Mondays rather than the first and last as it is right now. And we can share that revised schedule with the board and we'll go forward noticing them in that way.
Perfect.
Quite honestly, since we've been on Zoom, I felt like the work sessions are not really work sessions because we have had so many people attending. So I don't feel like it's that much of a different interpretation whatsoever.
Sure. It's much better to sit around the table and look at a plan together.
It definitely is.
Yeah, I mean, I
Wait,
guess the jurisdictional question aside, being able to get to applications as quickly as we can is important. So I don't, I think we should combine the sessions because that would just expedite whatever it is we're looking at, putting aside that other question. Yeah.
It would also give the board more of an opportunity to more quickly hear, public hearings. They wouldn't have to wait for, perhaps another meeting period. You could just, as soon as you could get the notice out, you could have your public hearing scheduled for any application.
Right, and that causes ripple effects for the applicant because it delays their, the building permit isn't immediate after the approval is granted, so it pushes everything down the line and they have to wait for advance notice.
But I guess one question it raises in my mind is it because it just came up in the last application, the applicant felt that it was just a repair based on, leaks and other things that were preventing people from accessing the building and preventing the business. So it's, we should have a mechanism for determining if something is in fact just a repair before it gets in front of us. Because I don't know that we need to get into things that are just repairs that are kind of no-brainers. So, being new to the board, I'm wondering if there's a way to determine if something does fall into the category of this is just a repair, or this is where we're putting a clothing rack, which, shouldn't really be the purview of the board if it's in fact just a repair, or if it doesn't affect the use of the property and things like that. So that's just is something that, I'm wondering about.
And that is the determination of the building inspector.
Okay. That's what I was asking. Yeah. I mean, so they determine beforehand whether something is just a repair or if it's something more substantial that affects the, sidewalk, community, everything else. Requires easements, things like that. Okay. So we shouldn't be dealing with things like racks, placement.
Right, something like that, I would assume wouldn't need a building permit, so it wouldn't come before this board. But something that involves, construction or reconfiguration, even if it's interior, because there's a building permit, that's the threshold currently in the code.
Okay.
It could be built-in racks. Would be something that we would have to weigh in on, not rolling. Okay. So that's it.
Okay.
I guess then my only question is, should we apply that to the March, I believe it's the 28th that's scheduled. Should we be moving that to the 21st, or do we want it to take in effect after that?
We would have to notify people that we've adjourned the meeting, right? Whose applications that we discussed tonight, where we actually adjourn them to the 28th of March, right?
And I'd have to check with Jackie to see if we have enough time notice-wise to make that change. So I'll confirm that.
Okay. So worst case scenario would start in April.
I think it's probably best for it to start in April.
Yeah, I think, we did say that we're adjourning a couple of these applications to the 28th.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So that's the end of this work session. We don't have to move. We don't have to move to close it.
No.
All right.
Good night.